Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're tackling a topic that it usually gets buried under this mountain of aesthetic Pinterest boards, right?
And Hollywood tropes.
Exactly, Hollywood tropes. We are talking about witchcraft. But before you roll your eyes, I want to be clear about what we're not doing. We aren't doing the Witchcraft 101 refresher asking if it's a religion or a cult.
Definitely not. No green skin, no broomsticks.
We assume you're, past that.
Right. We are treating this as what the source material argues it actually is. A sophisticated system of psychological and spiritual technology.
Exactly. We're dissecting a book called The Living Craft, a guide to modern witchcraft practices. And what caught my attention right away is the central argument.
Oh, yeah.
This idea that, that modern practices become so commodified, it's all about the gear.
The crystals, the aesthetic rituals, sure.
But this book argues that true witchcraft is actually about relationship.
It's a bold pivoting point. The text defines the craft not as a set of rules you follow to get a result, but as they call it a living practice.
A living practice.
Yeah, shaped by intention, culture, and intuition. It explicitly states that the core mechanism of magic isn't the wand or the jar, it's the quality of the relationship you have with the world around you.
Which honestly feels like a direct response to the whole...
The TikTokification of spirituality. Absolutely.
Yeah, that idea that you can just buy the starter pack and you're good to go.
It is. The source pushes back against that hard. It says witchcraft is the practice of entering into a dialogue with your own psychology, with nature, and with unseen forces.
And unseen here doesn't necessarily mean ghosts or spirits.
No, not at all. It can mean social dynamics, emotional currents. I mean, the things that move us that we can't physically touch.
So if we strip away the gatekeeping, the book is defining a witchcraft practice as, and I'm quoting here, any intentional act used to work with energy and symbolism to create change, insight, or healing.
That is incredibly broad.
Right.
But it's broad by design. It dissolves the barrier between your magical life and your mundane life.
How so?
Well, if you take that definition seriously, it implies that preparing a meal with the specific intention of nourishing your family, that's a spell.
Okay.
Or negotiating a contract with the intention of protection is a form of shielding.
Which is fascinating, but also a little daunting. If everything is magic, then does the word magic lose its meaning?
That's the risk, right? If everything is special, nothing is special. But the source argues that the differentiating factor is conscious intention.
Oh.
Most of us just sleepwalk through those daily tasks. The practice is the act of waking up and applying will to them.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of how one actually applies will. The book divides this into active, receptive, and internal practices. I want to start with the active because that's the output. That's the making things happen part.
This brings us to spellwork. And again, the book just strips away all the theatricality. It defines a spell simply as the intentional direction of energy toward a desired outcome.
To me, this sounded a lot like psychological priming. You set a goal, you visualize it, you create a symbol for it.
There is a massive overlap. The source totally acknowledges that. Whether you believe you are manipulating metaphysical currents or just, say, retraining your reticular activating system to spot opportunities.
The mechanism is similar.
The mechanism is very similar. You are focusing your entire being, conscious and subconscious, on a single point.
But it's not just think and grow rich. There is a ritual component.
Correct. The ritual, the candles, the rhymes, the herbs, it serves as a container.
A container.
The human mind is messy. It wanders. The ritual gives the mind a track to run on so the energy doesn't just dissipate.
Let's talk about candle magic specifically, because the book uses this as a prime example of that container concept.
Okay.
It lists all the standard correspondences: green for abundance, red for vitality, black for protection. We've seen those lists a million times. But the why was interesting to me.
It creates a visual anchor. That's the term the author uses.
A visual anchor.
Yeah. If you are trying to manifest, say, a new career path, just sitting and thinking about it is hard to sustain for 30 minutes. But staring into a flame while holding a physical object that represents that career, that anchors the will.
It's almost like a biohack. You're using the sensory input.
The smell of the oil, the color of the wax, yeah.
There's a signal to your brain, okay, we're doing this now.
Precisely. The source mentions dressing the candle with oils or carving sigils into it. These are tactile actions. You're literally engaging more of your nervous system in the intention.
Now, we have to address the elephant in the room regarding active magic. Love spells.
Ah, yes.
The source has a very specific ethical stance on this that I think really distinguishes it from older texts.
It does. It draws a very hard line at consent. The author argues that trying to bend a specific person's will to love you isn't just unethical, it's actually a form of psychic attack.
Which is a strong way to put it.
But it's consistent with the philosophy. If magic is about relationship, you can't build a real relationship on domination.
So what's the alternative?
So the source reframes love spells as spells for self-love, or for becoming a magnet for the type of love you want. You work on yourself, not on the target.
It's the difference between trying to grab a butterfly and planting a garden so the butterfly comes to you.
That's a perfect analogy. And that leads right into the third type of active magic, crafting.
Making spell jars, amulets, witch bottles.
This is all about anchoring intention into the physical world.
I liked this section because it felt so tangible. It's not just energy work in your head, you're making a physical object.
It's about permanence. A visualization fades when you stop thinking about it. A spell jar sits on your shelf.
Right.
Every time you walk past it, even unconsciously, that symbol hits your brain. It re-triggers the intention. It's an automated loop for your magic.
So that's the output, sending signals out. But the source argues you can't have a dialogue if you're the only one talking. So we need to discuss the receptive practices. The input.
And this is where we get into divination. And I'm so glad the source clarifies this immediately. Divination is not about predicting the future.
Which is the biggest misconception. People think it's about finding out if they're going to win the lottery.
The author is very clear. The future is fluid. It's created by our choices. So tools like tarot or runes or scrying aren't showing you some fixed movie of next week.
They're mirrors.
They're mirrors. They reflect the current patterns and the subconscious currents that are already at play.
It's very Jungian, really. It's using archetypes to bypass the ego.
Right. If you're stuck on a problem, your logical brain is probably looping on the same 3 bad solutions. You pull a card, it has a strange image, maybe the tower or the hermit.
And that image forces your brain to make a new lateral connection.
It breaks the loop.
So the magic isn't in the cardboard card, it's in the sudden insight the card provokes in you.
According to this source, yes. The insight is the magic.
The other major receptive practice mentioned is herbalism. And again, the book moves past the simple, this herb cures a headache level.
It focuses on the energetic signature of the plant. It's about slowing down enough to actually introduce yourself to another living system.
So if you're making tea for anxiety,
Are you just dumping a bag in hot water? Or are you really engaging with the lavender, smelling it, acknowledging its properties?
it sounds like mindfulness with a botanical partner.
It is. It's an antidote to the disconnect of modern life. And speaking of modern life, that brings us to moon magic. The source spends a lot of time on this.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. It's a lovely idea to live by the moon cycles. Waxing for growth, waning for rest. But we live in a 247 capitalist society. My boss doesn't care if the moon is waning, the report is due on Friday. How does the source reconcile that?
That is the central tension, isn't it? The source acknowledges that we can't completely opt out of linear time, but argues that because our society is so linear and relentless, we need these cyclical practices more than ever to prevent burnout.
So it's a counterbalance.
Exactly. You might still have to write the report during the waning moon, but maybe in your personal life you choose that week to stay in, to rest your body, to do banishing work.
Like cleaning out your closet or deleting old emails.
Yes, rather than starting some new, ambitious gym routine, you find pockets of the cycle to honor where you can.
I see. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your own energy where you can.
And that word sovereignty is the perfect bridge to the most critical part of the book.
The internal practices.
The internal practices.
I agree. This section felt like the engine room. Without this, the candles and the cards are just toys.
Definitely.
It talks about energy work, protection, and shadow work.
Let's start with energy work. The source describes this as the muscle control behind the magic. Grounding, centering, shielding.
Basically, if you can't sense your own energy, how can you possibly direct it?
Exactly.
Grounding is one of those terms that gets thrown around in yoga classes constantly. But in this context, it seems more, well, survivalist.
It's energetic hygiene. The source describes modern life as an energetic assault notifications, noise, other people's stress. Rounding is a technique of flushing that static out so you can hear your own signal again.
And protection relates to that. The book explicitly says protection magic isn't fear-based. It's not about hiding from demons.
No, it's about boundary setting. Sovereignty. It's the magical equivalent of a strong immune system. You aren't afraid of germs, but you wash your hands.
So protection magic like visualization shields or amulets is simply asserting, I decide what energy enters my space.
That's it.
Now, we need to spend some time on shadow work. The source highlights this as arguably the most difficult part of the craft. And for those familiar with Jung, the shadow isn't evil, it's just the rejected self.
Right. It's the parts of you that you decided weren't acceptable, so you shoved them into the basement. Your jealousy, your rage, your greed.
But also maybe your power or your creativity, if you were taught those were bad.
Yes, absolutely. The text makes a really interesting point here. It says, shadow work is essential for ethical magic.
Why is that?
Because if you don't know your shadow will cast the spell for you.
That is a chilling thought.
Think about it. If you were doing a spell for justice, but deep down in your shadow, you're actually driven by petty vindictiveness that you haven't acknowledged. That spell is going to manifest as revenge, not justice.
Because the energy follows the true desire.
Not the polite label you put on it?
So the work is to dig up that ugliness,
Yeah.
look at it, and integrate it.
Yes. And the source warns against spiritual bypassing, using magic and love and light to avoid looking at your own pain. Real witchcraft, the author argues, is messy.
It involves sitting in the dark and asking, why am I like this? It takes the sparkle out of it, but it adds so much depth. It suggests that a witch isn't someone who has power over the world, but someone who has power over themselves.
That is the ultimate definition of mastery in this text.
This leads us naturally to the section on ethics and daily life. We've touched on consent, but there's a broader theme here about responsibility.
Yes.
There was a quote, magic does not remove responsibility, it deepens it.
It's the philosophical hook of the whole book. If you claim that you have agency, that you can affect reality with your will, then you can no longer play the victim. You are a co-creator of your life.
If you break something, you own the pieces.
You own the pieces, and that includes cultural responsibility too. The book touches on the importance of respecting lineage and being cautious about closed practices.
Right. Just because you saw a ritual on the internet doesn't mean you have the cultural right or the context to perform it.
It's about respect. You wouldn't walk into someone's house and start wearing their grandmother's jewelry without asking.
So bringing this all down to earth, we've
Yeah.
talked about high ritual, shadow work, moon cycles. But what does this look like on a Tuesday? The book talks about quiet magic.
This is my favorite part because it's so accessible. It's the idea of weaving the sacred into the mundane.
Give us the examples.
Okay, it can be as simple as stirring your morning coffee clockwise to bring in energy for the day, or washing your hands after a stressful meeting and visualizing the stress going down the drain with the water.
I love the hand washing one. It changes a hygiene habit into a psychological reset.
And it requires zero equipment. Zero. It only requires intention. It's a way of living where you are constantly touching base with the unseen.
But the source does distinguish this from formal ritual.
Yes, ritual is sacred time. It's stepping out of the flow of the day to mark a transition. Opening a circle, calling the elements, making an offering. It's structure.
I see. So quiet magic is the jazz improvisation, and ritual is the classical score. You need both.
That's a great way to put it.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm thinking about the person listening who feels drawn to this but just overwhelmed. There's so much to learn. Astrology, herbs, history. What is the source's advice for the beginner?
Stop shopping. Stop looking for the right tool to buy.
Okay, that's blunt.
The author suggests starting with questions. What feels authentic to me? What restores me? If standing in the moonlight feels silly to you, don't do it. If working with soil and plants feels like home, start there.
Tools, not rules.
Exactly. The practice should be a reflection of your own inner landscape, not a copy of someone else's.
It really emphasizes that idea of remembering yourself rather than learning some new skill.
It does. And that leads to the final thought the book leaves us with, which I think is the most provocative thing in the whole text.
You are the magic.
You are the magic. The candle is just wax. The herb is just a plant. The power doesn't come from them. It comes through you. You are the conduit.
I want to leave our listeners with that. If you are the magic, if your attention and your intention are the most powerful tools you possess, how does that change how you approach the rest of your day? When you choose what to say to a friend or how to treat yourself when you make a mistake. If you view those as magical acts, does the world look different?
It forces you to wake up. It turns life from a series of accidents into a work of art.
A living craft, indeed. Thank you for unpacking this with me. It's been a genuinely enlightening conversation.
Always a pleasure to explore the unseen.
And thank you to everyone listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.